with a laptop and GarageBand and a decent mic, anyone could be making music, and that means that everyone is making music. And so, how do you stand out from the crowd? I am writing songs again for a new record, and it's more traditional than usually, which is just my last couple pieces of work or leftover jingles and pop songs that just were lying around. This one I kind of sat around for a few months just writing with my acoustic guitar, writing lyrics and just playing along until I felt like I had a catalog or enough to do a record.
How is this project different?
This time I wanted to do it much more real. So first I mapped out like how I wanted to record, when I was going to do it, what time of day, you know, do I need other musicians? And I quickly decided that, yeah, I want to have a band, or at least a semblance of a band. So before I started recording, I reached out to a few local musicians here in Nashville, see if they'd want to play. I reached out to some guys all over the world in New York, and see if they wanted to kind of contribute over the web and see if I can make this sound like a real record as opposed to like these little homemade things that I make, which are fun, and I'm not discounting homemade things because this is a giant homemade project anyway.
What's the process?
I started doing the foundation tracks, which were me just playing some drums on the keyboard here, and then playing the acoustic guitar, and then singing, and then layering the instruments, and then printing everything but the drum tracks. Then I would go to the studio, the drummer's studio, with everything I've done minus the drums, and he would map it out, write it out, and he would play the drum parts. He would give me all the multi-tracks of the drums. I'd come back to the studio, mix it all together, and then I would repeat with the horns. I would send the horn player everything I had, and the sheet music that we wrote out, and then he would play stuff, send it back to me. I actually went to my dad's house and got him to play B3, a real B3 organ on some of this stuff.
The 4 drawbar, good old standard
R&B.
Booker T, Allman Brothers. And then you just slam them all out when it's time to...
What's your creative process like?
For example, I started out with a song called Gravity, which actually is a piano song, but I don't have the piano sound written. So, but this is what I would be doing for a couple months, just sitting around the house, playing songs, walking around. I tend to like sit in front of a mirror sometimes, see how I'd look, or I'll sit in a part of the house where the ceiling's really high. But this is one of the songs. I've been sitting here thinking about gravity, reaching out and grabbing me. Everything's pulling me back to you. I've been wondering if it's unreality, or if somebody up there is glad at me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I don't need to see it, oh no, I just got to believe it, you know. I know that you can believe it too, as it's true. I've been staring at the night sky, wondering what's really keeping me under it. Everything's pulling me back to you. So, you know, I even already had the horn parts kind of all written out.
What about the tech?
Think about gravity, or reaching out and grabbing me, pulling me back to you.
I can get way carried away playing. Having tools like this with your computer and your software that can record is both liberating, and also there's a danger of playing too much. But you know, even 6 years ago, I would not have been able to pull off some of this so complex arrangements, getting really good, clean audio signal. Just a few minutes ago, I was firing up the session, and I used this little plug-in here. There's a little secret. In Logic, there's a thing called tape delay, but if you tweak it just right, you can turn it not into a delay unit, but as tape saturation to make it sound like you actually recorded onto a tape deck. But every time you launch the program, for some reason, it throws the delay in. So I always have to come in here and... So this is kind of how it started in the demo process. I've been sitting here thinking about gravity. You know, I had these kind of stupid drums. Don't need them. Back to you. I've been wondering if it's unreality, or if somebody up there is glad at me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. This one kind of came together pretty quickly, but background vocals, piano, a little bit of guitar, xylophone, whatever thing. What I did next was actually, this is a little bit out of order, but I got the horns written out. This came after the drums, but I love saxophones. So it's, you know, coming together. So eventually I went to Tony's house, Tony's studio, and got him to play drums on it. Much better than those synthesizer things of mine. And then I brought in, that's the drums, and so there's that. Put them together. Don't need to see it, oh no, I just got to believe it, you know. And you know, that's that one's done recording. I just need to start mixing it now.
What's Geoff Smithy about this project?
The thing that's really Geoff Smithy about this, I guess, is all the little harmonies, because I do a lot of harmony stuff. Ba, ba, ba. I don't need to see it, oh no. It's like a whole bunch of Geoffs. Got to believe it, you know. And I know that you can believe it too. Ba, 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 ba. I mean, really, background vocals can do so much to a song. You don't need much instrumentation.
What gear are you using?
I'm a Mac guy, so I got a MacBook Pro here, and I'm using Logic Pro. It's pretty good, pretty much out of the box. It's got everything I need, effects-wise, instrument-wise. I do have a few additional plugins, you know, different compressors and double tracking things and stuff like that. You know, and I use MIDI instruments in Logic, so everything is great because then I can grab my laptop and go downstairs and mix, or I could be on the road mixing or whatever. Most everybody these days, I think, kind of agrees that sort of the GarageBand Logic thing, you can do a lot more with it than you think. So most of my other gear setup is pretty simple. You know, I use a large diaphragm condenser mic running into a preamp. I'm currently using the two mics I'm really into right now is a Sterling Audio. It's a ST77 FET mic. Kind of sounds like a vintage FET a little bit. FET is a type of circuit, and so it's like a non-tube mic, but it has some vintage kind of qualities to it. I got a new Neumann TLM 102, which is pretty cool. I'm still figuring it out. It's a little bright of a microphone, but I ran everything into some PreSonus Eureka, which is a pretty decent channel strip for the price. It's got, you know, you can vary the impedance, you know, to sort of boost some really cool gain in a microphone. And the compressor's great, definitely handy when I'm laying down bass tracks to keep the bass from popping up too loud, or the hand claps. I've got a lot of hand claps in this record. And then out of the Presonus, I run into the Apogee Duet, which is an awesome interface. Apogee, of course, is one of the top of the line analog to digital, digital to analog converters. And it works great with Logic. So this one's just a 2-channel input, but again, since I'm doing most of this stuff by myself, I don't need really too many inputs at once. When I do drums, I use Tony's setup. He's got, you know, a big giant Pro Tools rig. Or if I need to, I'll pack up my little case here, which has my preamps, throw this in my backpack, grab the microphone, stick it in the bag, run over to whoever's house, mic up the organ cabinet. And what's great about this is that I can make sure it doesn't peak and distort and stuff like that. And then I've got a Presonus central station, which kind of is the hub of all of my speakers. I've got, you know, 3 sets of speakers, 4 if you count the Sony MDR 7506s, great headphones. And that's pretty much the gear. And then I'm, you know, using guitars and pianos and stuff like that.
How's life as a working musician?
Most people need to eat, and I'd rather do it making music than selling life insurance. And I've been fortunate to be in music ever since I got out of college. You know, when I started, and I quit college, so I'm a college dropout kid. Sorry, I'm not an example. But I went to music school in Boston, and then I got a gig with Opryland, singing musical theater stuff. I was like, cool, you know, working 6 days a week in a theme park, singing cowboy songs. That's okay, cool. And then, you know, I have the whole night to goof around with an acoustic guitar in my apartment. That was great. I kept getting more experience while at the same time making money. So yeah, some of it was kind of embarrassing, but some of it was, I met a lot of cool musicians along the way who would point me into a direction. Hey, do you want to come play this gig with me? Cool. Oh, now I know how to play the organ or whatever. I've had a lot of gigs that weren't financially successful that were immensely satisfying artistically. I've had a lot of ones that aren't artistically satisfying that were able to, you know, have me to have a good vacation with my family. But it's just, there is no right way or wrong way to find a gig in music. You just have to be more creative when you're getting on in your ears. I mean, I'm still young, but I'm late 30s, and I have, you know, kind of a bit of a settled down kind of life. So I wouldn't necessarily want to be on the road for too long and be gone from my family for too long. But I got a supportive family too, so they like the music around. They don't want me to be a life insurance salesman. Nothing wrong with life insurance. I have it. Gotta have it. I think that answered that.
What makes a good jingle?
It's got to be catchy, otherwise there's no point in making it a jingle. I always strongly believe that the melody is, there's nothing beats the melody. I mean, maybe rhythm, but a groove isn't necessarily going to sell a donut like a melody will. I mean, you go around the world and you hear tribal people singing melodies, and melodies move. They don't just kind of hang there. I mean, I believe a melody can do anything, but a good melody from Mozart or to some African tribe leader, it moves, it goes somewhere, it takes you somewhere, it starts somewhere, it ends somewhere. It's relative to the confines of the genre that it's in. I love simple melodies because that means everybody could probably remember it and sing it. Lyrics have always been a tough thing for me because I've never really been I've been so hooked on music that lyrics are such an afterthought. So jingles have helped me focus on what the words need to say, especially when I'm like hired by someone to sell something. But it's, I don't know, the catchy thing, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder. I'm sure there's people that don't like catchy music and they would rather hear avant-garde stuff. But the majority of people around the world can hum 7 notes. Na 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 na. And if they're arranged in such an order that's easy to remember, kind of like a, you know, a phrase that's easy to remember. I guess that's the same way that you should write jingles, is just have it be so easy to remember that it sticks in your head. Let's all go and buy some cola now. See, there we go, there's a jingle for whatever cola company wants it.
The Beatles?
Well, my wife is always afraid that I'm worshiping the Beatles, but I will say that I want to sound like I'm a true Beatles, you know, enjoyer and not a fanboy. I mean, just the Beatles are huge. I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer to like the Beatles, I think, because everybody else does, but that's not why I do. I think it reminds me of the connection, the music I have with my parents. They both lived during the Beatles, and the fact that I still hear the Beatles when I was a kid, and we could all listen to them. You know, there's a good chunk of that, and it's happening now with my daughter. You know, we're playing Beatles rock band, and she's rocking out to the Beatles too. There's so much that they did right as far as like being able to write good material within the confines of popular music and have it still exist today. They were groundbreaking in sort of recording techniques, in style. They kind of shook America up when America was kind of stymied in the kind of cruddy music of the 50s. I mean, it was all good, but I think when the Beatles came along, America really needed to hear that kind of the British version of American rhythm and blues, which is really what they did. They just loved American music, and they just tried to perform it, and it ended up sounding like that. I grew up also, my dad is a rhythm and blues B3 organist, keyboard player, and so all the records that he had playing around our house were, you know, soul records, Marvin Gaye, and Beatles records and stuff. And so for most of my life up until towards the end of high school, I was just listening to the oldies stations on the radio. Didn't really like much of the music at the time. I was just into vintage stuff. I loved going to the local comic book store downtown and buying LPs, even though CDs had already come out, even though cassettes were the king. I was buying LPs of the Police and the Beatles and Miles Davis and stuff like that. I think it's cool. There are something about people like us that have to collect old stuff. Some of that stuff is cool because it lasts. It's solid made stuff. But the Beatles, again, are memorable, catchy. I mean, knowing a handful of Beatles songs at a party is always good. As the night goes on, people will probably always be screaming out the "Hey Jude" or something like that. I mean, just it's kind of one of those no-brainers. You got to know if you're going to play a party.
Na 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 na. Hey Jude, don't let me down.
I went through the phase of just listening to every Beatles record over and over again, and listening to how the bass was played, and I learned how to play bass by listening to Paul McCartney and guys like that who weren't bass players, they just were musicians playing an instrument. That's what I am, really. I'm not that trained as a musician. I'm just a guy that plays a bunch of stuff. But it all fits together in the song. So that's, you could go on and on about the Beatles, but.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you recording? Are you armed? Ah.
Now I am. Are you hearing me loud enough in there?
Sounds good.
Okay. So let me just make sure my headphone mix is loud.
1, 2, 3, 4. I've been sitting here thinking about gravity, around the universe, reaching out and grab.
All right. So here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4. I've been sitting here thinking about gravity, around the universe, reaching out and grabbing me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I've been wondering if it's unreality, or if somebody up there has guided me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I don't need to see it, oh no. I just got to believe it, you know. And I know you can believe it too, 'cause it's true. I've been staring at the night sky and wondering what the cosmos has got me. I'm wondering nothing in the galaxy to take me away from you. Don't need to see it, oh no. I just got to believe it, you know. I know that
That's good for him. He did enough shots.
Hey, Tom.
it's true. But I could just close my eyes and deny you and not see skies of blue. But you are everywhere.
I think that's cool, man. I can grab my studio, pack it up in my backpack because it's in the laptop, and I can go over to my dad's house to mic up his B3. Because at the end of the day, I'm capturing all the sounds into this palette to arrange later, which is cool. And this technology frees me up to do it on my own time. So I can take a break, go cook steaks with my family, watch some TV, and then come back and do it again.
I've been sitting here thinking about gravity, around the universe, reaching out and grabbing me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I've been wondering if it's unreality, or if somebody up there is glad at me. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. I don't need to see it, oh no. I just got to believe it, you know. And I know you can believe it too, 'cause it's true. I've been staring at the night sky wondering what's really keeping me under it. It's like everything's pulling me back to you. Don't need to see it, I just got to believe it, you know. I know that you can believe it too, 'cause it's true. But I could just close my eyes and deny you and not see skies of blue. But you are everywhere. Think about gravity, reaching out and grabbing me and pulling me back to you. think about gravity. Just reaching out and grabbing me